What's going on, guys? Welcome back to BlackTideTV as we enter the slow descent away from Call of Duty World War II private beta coverage on the channel. I have around 4 videos that I've planned in advance. And then after that, I do a few gameplay clips. If you guys have any suggestions for topics you'd like me to address for the World War II beta, let me know in the comment section down below. And we'll get to those before we get to Destiny 2 coverage a little later this week. Destiny 2 comes out September 5th, so that's this Tuesday. My first video for Destiny 2 should be coming out like Wednesday, Thursday, something like that. I do plan to have a double upload day somewhere in here for Call of Duty World War II beta, probably tomorrow, because I did miss that one upload on, I believe it was Thursday night, because I had a really crazy day at work, and I didn't really get around to posting a video because I came home, the beta was live again early, and I just had to get my grind on. But in today's video, we're talking about create a class in Call of Duty World War II, not wasting any time here because this is going to be a very in-depth video. We're going into detailing all of the different basic trainings. Basically, in Call of Duty World War II, the create a class is not what we've come to expect from the Call of Duty franchise, and I could not be more happy about that. I've always been an advocate for a more strict create a class system. I've always preferred the create a class system from the classic Call of Duty games like Call of Duty 4, World at War, I believe, had the same kind of perk system, and then Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3, where we had 3 perks, we had our 2 equipment, we had a primary and a secondary, and then whatever attachments you could afford on those weapons. There wasn't a pick 10 system. The pick 10 system, I believe, started in Black Ops 2. So it came out in Black Ops 2, and then it was away for Ghosts. Ghost had a very different kind of setup for their create a class. There was a bunch of different perk points and stuff. I honestly love the perk system from Ghosts, but because everyone trashed that game, it's a far sight to see that perk system return. So in Ghosts, we took away from the pick 10 system, but then we got back to it in Advanced Warfare, and then we got back to it again in Black Ops 3 and Infinite Warfare. So the pick 10 system has been with us for a very, very long time. And at the time, everyone thought the pick 10 system was the greatest create a class innovation in the Call of Duty franchise because you could just choose whatever. However, unfortunately, I see it this way. With a pick 10 system, the game becomes impossible to balance because anyone can basically run whatever they want whenever they want. That makes it a lot more difficult to balance perks, to balance weapons and attachments and abilities and equipment, because one person might run 6 perks on one gun without anything else. Another person might run 6 attachments on one gun without anything else. And another person might run 2 lethals, 2 tacticals, a couple perks to make their lethals and tacticals extremely strong. It just becomes incredibly difficult to balance because it's so unpredictable. However, the classic system where you were forced to take certain things made the game so much more easy. It put everyone on a level playing field because if you wanted this specific item on your class, you are forced to take off this other item that could also be extremely beneficial. Rather than taking off whatever you want to fit that in, you literally had to choose between damage or fire rate, or damage or stealth, or health, or it made it very restrictive, and it made the game so much more easy to balance, and that's what they've done in the Call of Duty World War II private beta. So the new create a class system is very similar to that. There are divisions, which I've detailed in a previous video. I'll leave my divisions video linked in the description down below if you want to learn a little bit more about the 5 divisions in this game, but there's also basic training. So your 2 major perks are divisions, which you upgrade and get a couple extra abilities as you go through the ranks of which division you are using, and there's your basic training, which is essentially your 1 perk choice. Now, a lot of the basic trainings actually combine a lot of previous perks from Call of Duty games into a single perk, and a lot of them are a little bit new. So we're going to go through all of those basic trainings today. I'll explain a little bit about each of them. I have tried out most of them. For the most part, it's very hard to try them all out because the unlock tokens in the beta, there's not enough unlock tokens to unlock everything, and so I had to be very restrictive with what I bought, but I do have a very good sense of what every single basic training does. So starting off with the first one, Launch. This will allow you to take a launcher as a secondary and resupply it from enemies killed without explosives. This is the only way you can use a launcher secondary in this game, and there are actually 2 launcher secondaries so far. I'm sure there will be more. The launchers are very powerful, and this is a very good basic training if that's your style. They're good for shooting down air support, they're good for shooting at enemies, they have a very large blast radius. Next up is one of my personal favorites, Lookout. Enemy targets appear from further away and increased minimap coverage. So this is peripherals from Advanced Warfare, so your minimap gets larger. And it's also mixed with Marksman from a lot of Call of Duty games where you can see enemy names at a further distance. Forage is basically Scavenger, so resupply bullets from killed enemies and swap weapons faster. This one's pretty good for SMGs, shotguns, anything that you're going to be running out of ammo very quickly, anything that you're going to be at close quarters, because you do have to pick up those scavenger bags to get that ammo. It doesn't just appear magically, you do have to be in close quarters to pick up that ammo. Next up is the spiritual successor to Sleight of Hand. Hustle allows you to reload faster and while sprinting, though there is an option in the menu that you can turn off the reloading while sprinting, so you can reload cancel if that's a concern for you, and then you can just reload faster in general. Rifleman allows you to take 2 primary weapons and swap between those 2 weapons faster, so that's basically overkill. Dualist will allow you to take 2 attachments on your secondary weapon. Now, funny enough, I believe this is just an issue with the beta, but without taking Dualist, you can't actually put any attachments on your secondary weapon whatsoever. Like, normally you would think you could take 1 attachment on your secondary weapon, but you can't even do that until you take Dualist, and then you can take 2. It's very strange. I believe it's just an issue with the beta itself. Gunslinger is basically gung-ho, fire guns while sprinting and diving. So when you're dolphin diving, you can also fire your weapons, which I find isn't the most tactical approach to engaging enemies unless you're using shotguns. I think it works very well with shotguns. Run and dive around a corner and blast them while you're diving. It just takes people by surprise. Espionage, enemy score streaks, and enemies you damage appear on the minimap. I don't find that this is very great unless you're using something to destroy those score streaks with. And then again, launched is another basic training, so you can't use a launcher and see where the enemy score streaks are at the same time. It's not the greatest basic training, basically, is what I'm saying. I don't like this one at all. Requisitions is damn near identical to the Warfighter Persistence trait from Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. Score streaks do not reset on death, but cost more and can only be earned once per game. This one is fairly self-explanatory, and I would only really recommend it to someone going for their higher tier score streak challenges, or maybe a newer player to Call of Duty who wants to experience those higher tier streaks without so much of a challenge. For your average player, Requisition certainly is not a prerequisite. The next basic training we have is Bang. Bang and the final basic training we'll be discussing, Concussed, are essentially the flip side of a coin to one another. They are exact opposites, and both of which are stolen from the Expeditionary Division abilities. If you're using Expeditionary Division, you should not need to use Bang or Concussed. But Bang, to give you guys an example, allows you to take an extra tactical grenade and a Mark II fragmentation lethal. This locks in your lethal grenade at a frag. You cannot use anything other than a frag. You must use a frag grenade for your lethal, and you get 2 tactical grenades of your choice. On the other hand, if you choose to run Concussed, which we'll skip to despite being the final basic training unlock in the private beta, you'll be given access to your choice of 2 lethal grenades with a tactical grenade set in stone at a British N69 Concussion. That's 2 lethals of your choice and a free concussion grenade. You see how it's the exact opposite of Bang, which allowed you to have 2 tacticals of your choice with a free frag grenade. And now here's how the 2 are ripped directly from Expeditionary. The second tier of Expeditionary Division allows your character to choose both a tactical and lethal piece of equipment rather than either or, as you have to choose with every other class. So if you're using Bang or Concussed on top of Expeditionary, you're really only getting 2 of a tactical or 2 of a lethal, whereas traditionally you would have 1 of each anyways. So Bang, Concussed, they're both good for any class other than Expeditionary, but with Expeditionary, the 2 abilities are mostly useless. Energetic is the next basic training we have, and this will allow you to sprint again sooner, and you won't take any damage from falling. Unfortunately, this does not reduce the time between bayonet charges. If you haven't noticed, when bayonet charging with the infantry division, if you engage an enemy with your bayonet, you will have a small sprint delay. You won't be able to sprint for a small amount of time. This ability, this basic training, does not reduce the time between bayonet charges. I'm not certain if that is by design or if that is an issue that needs to be resolved. It definitely seems like it may be by design, as the bayonet charge can be a little bit overpowered if you're engaging a number of enemies at close range. Just stab, stab, stab. It might be by design, but just be aware of that. Energetic won't reduce the time between bayonet charges, and so you can't get away with being a commando melee guy with the energetic ability. Ordinance allows you to have cheaper score streaks and gives you the ability to reroll your own care packages. This is something I wouldn't really consider useful. It's kind of like Hardline mixed with Engineer in previous games. Really, if you're going for cheaper score streaks, you probably shouldn't be using care packages anyways. If you're going to reduce the amount of points needed for each score streak, you would think you're going for the higher score streaks. And so I don't think that Ordinance makes a lot of sense in the way that the two abilities complement each other, but I wouldn't run this ability in my own classes at all, so really I can't say much about it. Last but not least, for basic training in Call of Duty World War II in terms of the beta, considering we've already brought up the final unlock, Concussed, is Instincts. Instincts is easily the least realistic ability of all, and is probably one of the most powerful abilities of all, closely resembling the FTL Perception ability in Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, I think it was called. This one will allow you to know when enemies are targeting you off screen, and you can also detect enemy explosive equipment. So it's something like Engineer, where you can see enemy equipment highlighted in red. But the thing that makes this so overpowered is that when enemies are targeting you from off screen, your whole screen will glow yellow, letting you know that someone is looking at or aiming at you. And you can turn on them and delete them instantly. It's a very, very powerful basic training. It's likely going to be nerfed. It's incredibly powerful, incredibly unrealistic, and I love it. It's really good if you know how to use it. But that is it for basic training and create a class in Call of Duty World War II. I don't think I need to explain the primary, secondary attachment options. That's pretty self-explanatory, but basic training, the all-new perk system. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section down below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. What's your favorite basic training in Call of Duty World War II so far? Subscribe and all that good stuff, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.